Of course, I'd like to also welcome all the local elected officials from cities, counties, school districts, and water agencies throughout California who are here with us this afternoon. There's a good number of folks who've signed up for this webinar. We have over 100 attendees and most of them local elected officials. And those are exactly the leaders that WELL educates and trains. We have a constituency that we believe who are the closest to the people, to the local residents. They are the ones that most residents ask questions about to government. So we believe it's important to have these elected officials educated on one of the most important California public policy issues, which is water. I'd like to remind everyone of WELL's mission as we enter our 10th year of service. WELL educates local Latino elected officials about California water policy to promote timely and equitable actions that serve to develop a robust economy, healthy communities, and a resilient environment for all Californians. I'd also like to emphasize that WELL is not just for Latinos, although we're called Water Education for Latino Leaders. We here at WELL believe anyone who serves a Latino constituency is a Latino leader. And quite frankly, in California, that's probably 90% of all elected officials here. So that means everyone is welcome to participate in WELL's programs. I'd like to also invite and alert everyone on this call of our Education and Training Fellowship, which is called the Untapped program. Untapped is a 6-month learning program where participants visit different California watersheds to learn about California water and issues from that local watershed perspective. And to learn more about that and our conferences and webinars, et cetera, we have information on our chat room on this Zoom webinar. So let's begin today's webinar. We have a great group of presenters. Our moderator who will lead us today for this conversation is Mr. Stephan Tucker. Stephan Tucker is the general manager, a newly general manager, I understand, a couple of months now, of the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. He is a successful program manager and mechanical engineer with more than 34 years of experience. He told us earlier that he might be new to this position, but he's been around water for many, many years. So that's exciting. Specifically for the over 20 years, Mr. Tucker has also worked on equity-related programs with the LA Department of Water and Power, initially as an employee and then as a consultant. His primary focus is using data to show inequities and develop subsequent strategies to address them. We're excited to have him as a moderator and to lead today's webinar. Mr. Tucker, you also might be interested to know that the Water Replenishment District was the first partner with WELL back in 2012. So we're very excited to have you join us this afternoon. So to kick this off, let's have Mr. Tucker take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. And I really appreciate you having me on as moderator for this panel. It's an exciting topic. And we've got 3 very engaging and exciting panelists that will give us some brief presentations before we start our questions and answers. We've got Channing Hawkins, board president of the West Valley Water District and president and founder of IE Works. We've got Beverli Marshall, general manager of Valley Sanitary District. And we have Chris Hannan, executive secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades Council. So the way we're going to format this is we're going to have brief presentations by each one of our panelists, and then we're going to do questions and answers after that. Our first panelist up will be Channing Hawkins. And Channing, go ahead and take it away with your presentation.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for putting this together. I want to thank Will and Victor Griego at WELL, as well as the leadership there for what they're doing to educate our community about water. I want to applaud their efforts. And it's true that WELL may stand for water education for Latino leaders, but it's for everyone. I know leaders from all across the gambit who have participated in the Untapped program, as well as other programs. And I thank Victor for his leadership, his insight, and his mentorship as we've guided along IE Works. So thank you to Will. I also want to acknowledge my counterparts on this panel for what they're doing in the community and this important topic that we're discussing today. Well, first and foremost, the reason my name is Channing Hawkins, I am one of the co-founders of IE Works along with a Well graduate, Ms. Gracie Torres, working in a regional collaboration called IE Works. And IE Works is a program that was founded just last year to strengthen water and wastewater jobs. And so I'm going to walk you through how we got to where we are today, where we have close to 9 local regional agencies that are participating, the California Mutual Organization participating, as well as community college, our labor partners, and everyone it takes in order to build a sustainable program like this that's going to create a pathway so individuals can have the opportunity for good paying jobs. So what I'm going to go over is setting the stage, preparing the framework, our history with our partners from up north, particularly JVS, Jewish Vocational Services, and Baywork, and how we've worked with them to adapt the model that they utilize in the Bayworks into what we're doing here in IE Works. And I can't be remiss without mentioning our partnership that we've collaborated together. And then next, IE Works programs and goals. Finally, our outcome and successes. Next slide, please. Setting the stage. The reality is, if you've been paying attention, you know, whether it's water, whether it's other infrastructure, it's been failing. And so there's been a need for agencies and the government to make an investment in our water infrastructure. But there's a twofold problem. The problem isn't just the infrastructure, but who's going to build and manage that infrastructure. And that problem is called the silver tide, where many of the agencies we're working along with are facing a 50% drop off in the amount of workers retiring over the next 5 years. In the Department of Labor, according to the Department of Labor, in 2019, there were 1 million more positions in water than workers who could fill them. And it's particularly acute here in the Inland Empire, where we've seen some of the we have a substantial amount of economically disadvantaged communities, such as the community that West Valley Water District represents in Colton, Bloomington, Rialto, San Bernardino. And one of the things that we wanted to do is to make sure that we invest and create a pathway. So not only will we have water currently, but to the future. Next stage, please. Next slide, please. Part of the process that we've gone through was, after being elected and appointed president in December of 2021, there were 2 major components of addressing economically for West Valley Water District. The one major component is to create a pathway to jobs, and the other one is to ensure our jobs were good paying jobs. And I think we've done that in 2 ways. 1, with the creation of IE Works to address the silver tide, and then 2, getting a community workforce agreement passed, one of the first water districts in San Bernardino County to do that. And because it's important as policymakers, we think not only about the investment in the infrastructure, but that we also think about who's going to maintain it and who's going to be the thought leaders to ensure that we have a sustainable water source in the future. We also have to address issues like equity, the silver tide, the impact of COVID-19, particularly on disadvantaged communities. And based on all those concerns, we had a roundtable with Victor Griego, Black Worker Center, and others, where we said we need to build a new pathway to these water jobs. So we outreached to the state of California, and what they informed us was there was a program up north, JVS and Bayworks, who is already doing great work with a consortium of water agencies, and that we need to reach out to them. What we thought would be a conversation just to answer a few questions, just to exchange some ideas and get a framework, ended up becoming a partnership that has been established, where we've applied for state and federal funding together at that time, just as West Valley Water District and JVS. Next slide, please. We were, based on our proposal, we were awarded over $1.8 million in $1.2 million in grant funding. Let me give you a little background about our partner, JVS. Jewish Vocational Services is a nonprofit training agency. Like I said, began in the Bay Area, and it began their collaborative in 2015. And they released a report regarding their work back in 2017 regarding recommendations for the water industry and what the workforce needs are. Next slide, please. So, based on their knowledge and expertise and our desire on the ground, myself and Director Torres, to get something done to create this pathway, starting in November of 2020, we applied and were successfully rewarded over $1.2 million to create an apprenticeship program in the Inland Empire. In December 2020, we formalized a partnership with Valley College, who is an instrumental partner of ours. Then in March 2021, IE Works became the new regional wastewater collaborative, and we formally established and hosted our virtual summit. In between March to September, we've had 8 agencies join and 10 interns work in IE Works. Next slide. Overview of the services. We have a cross-regional application of what some of the practices they applied in the Bay Area. We have $1.5 million funding from U.S. Department of Education, as well as the California Workforce Development Board. Our training model is comprised of some short-term and long-term goals, like the placement of interns, 15 apprenticeships, 20 registered apprenticeships, 40 job placements, and 15 career awareness events, as well as supportive services and mentorship, test press, interview writing, and job search. Because some of these communities that we're engaging are already ready for the workforce, and some need some support and help so they can have understanding and be prepared for a lifetime career and everything that it entails. Next slide, please. Who are we prioritizing? Well, if you go back to that Brookings report, less than 10% of the water workforce are women. So they're first and foremost. We can't build a pathway and build the kind of infrastructure that we need without being inclusive and women having not only a voice, but a seat at the table. We're also looking at African-American and Latinx communities who have a lower participation rate in the water and wastewater industry. We're also working with transitional age youth groups, Generation Zs, millennials, and others who aren't participating, and workers who are coming from economically disadvantaged communities. Next slide, please. Our internship. We just finished at West Valley. We were the first. We had 3 interns that we have. If you look to the side of my presentation, these are our current and past interns just from this last month, working in agencies like IUEA, Inland Empire Utilities Agency, Western Municipal, as well as at West Valley and other places. And as you can see, it's a diverse group of people who are all getting the opportunity to have these jobs. And you can see, because of anyone who participates in IE Works, we supplement the payment for these interns with 1/3 of their wages, other supportive services, setting up the mentorship program and giving them other supportive services that they need. Next slide, please. The next and more daunting and challenging, which has taken substantial collaboration, and I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Toops as well as Scott Goodell, our program manager, who've been on the ground every day making sure that this happens. We're building out, along with our community-based organizations, a pre-apprenticeship program. We're working with our agencies and labor partners on our registered apprenticeships, which will take 2 to 5 years. Our student profile is 18 years old with some basic, if you have a GED plus, we can work with you. And then working with our employers, right? Because they're letting in new people coming from different cultures and contexts into their agency, and working with them to give them the tools necessary that when they're making this investment, that is over the long term. Next slide, please. And finally, we're addressing industry needs. The Inland Empire is projected to lose 835 jobs of these highly skilled folks in 2023. There's substantial funding from the federal and state government for these types of programs, over $550 billion in new investment in bridges, water infrastructure, and resilience. California is also investing as well. And the Human Rights to Water Act. So this is the opportunity is now for you to join IE Works. Next slide, please. With that being said, I have more information. I don't want to go over my time regarding our strategies, our outcomes, and our lessons learned. And we have comprehensive toolkits that we provide and strategies that we have that can provide information on how you're successful. And we can get more in the details with anyone who's interested in learning more in IE Works. Next slide, please. And our success. I just want to, before I go, I wanted to make sure I read this. This is from one of our interns at West Valley Water District. The internship is going to be beneficial in terms of my career path since I'm gaining hands-on experience and seeing what it takes to operate a water district. It should make it easier for me to get my foot in the water industry right after the internship because of the knowledge I am gaining. And finally, I want to give you all our contact, and as well, we have Jessica. One more slide. You can email, if you just take a moment, you can screenshot the screen. You can contact Scott Goodell, our IE Works manager. His email is there. Myself, or graduate Director Gracie Torres. Thank you for your time. I'll give the mic back to Mr. Stephan Tucker.
Thank you, Channing. A lot of good information. Sure, it'll generate quite a few questions during the question and answer period. Next up, we have Beverli Marshall, who is the General Manager of Valley Sanitary District. Beverli?
Hello, everyone. Can everyone see me?
Yes.
And hear me, obviously. Okay, here I am. All right, thank you very much. Once again, I am Beverli Marshall. I am the General Manager of Valley Sanitary District, and I've been here about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was up in the Bay Area. I'm very familiar with Bayworks, and I actually worked at one of the agencies that was one of the participants, was one of the founders of that. So it's a great model. One of the issues that I identified quickly when I got here to the desert area is that there really wasn't a great training program of any kind here in the desert specifically, and that there was a lot of discussion among the different agencies here in the desert. And so I thought this is a great opportunity to see, maybe what I can do. And so the outcome of that is the Desert Region Water Technology Training Program. And the reason why it's called the Desert Region is because it's turned into something bigger than just Coachella Valley. So next slide. So to start, just very similar to the previous discussions, is that the median age of operators, this is water and wastewater, is 45.5 years. That was one of the issues I identified. One is that we need a more diverse pool of applicants. That's the industry-wide, but also where I happen to be located and in my observation in the industry. Technology is becoming more advanced, which means there are very different skill sets than there used to be. And so there's a growing need for these specialized skills and education. And that coming into the industry, there's a greater requirement to come in to be competitive, to get your foot through the door, to have those skills, education, and experience. And so I just have the information, Zippy is where I got that, and it's very useful. Next slide. So looking at the water sector specifically, the demographic age, 65% of the operators in the water sector are 40 plus years old. That is huge. So one of the things is looking at the average, but the other is just looking at what makes up that average. So very clearly we have this huge silver wave, tsunami, whatever you want to call it, already here. And if you're 40 plus years old, depending on if you're private or public, if you're public, probably 55 is what you're looking at, somewhere in there. So at the top end, 60. So you're talking 10, 20 years at the latest, probably much less than that. Next slide. So what about race? Where do we fall? So as you can see, predominantly white, and that is across the board. Now, in various communities, you might see something different, but as a whole, this is what we see in the industry. Now, these are national figures. One of the frustrations I had was when I reached out to the State Water Board, which provides the certification for operators, and asked for demographics. They told me they don't collect that information. Now, I know when I sent in my application, I put some of that on my application. So what this tells me is they have it, they're not tracking it, which I think is part of the problem, is they're not tracking it, which means it makes it very difficult for us to address the situation and know if we're moving the needle at all, specifically here in California. But as you can see, the next largest group is Latino, which is only 10%. Now, I'm here in Coachella Valley, specifically Indio. My population is approximately 70 to 75% Latino. So if I'm looking at where can I potentially grow, at least from an outreach and education perspective of getting people to know what a great industry and career this is, that's where I'm aiming. And we can certainly move that needle. Next slide. So gender, obviously, nothing shocking here, but in the water sector, there is a big difference between men and women. And so that is a potential location for where we can really do better in outreach, education, and getting people to see this as a career field, and then really opening that door for them. Next slide. So educationally, I have met people of all varying levels of education, but one of the things that you can see is that in the water sector, there is a large percentage of people that have bachelor's degrees. Now, where they work in the industry, perhaps that's in maybe engineering, maybe that's in the lab, maybe it's in operations, maybe not. But that tells you that there is a lot of room right there in the high school and associate level. So that seems to be a good, solid place to look for. Are we getting the right skills? Are we educating them? Are we encouraging them to get the advanced degrees? But also, are we aiming that for that group that are in that high school level to grow that? Because what I see is that aside from certain aspects or certain very specific positions or jobs, the majority of the jobs really lend itself to that high school and associate level. So where does that lead me? Well, I approached the local community college, College of the Desert, to see if they were interested. And one of the issues that came up was that I would have to start the program from scratch. There was nothing here in Coachella Valley that was already established, kind of like Bayworks, where they had teachers and programs and well-established programs like in San Bernardino. So the problem is that is a huge heavy lifting process. And we're talking many years down the road to get all the things in place, to get it all approved through the college process, to get adjunct professors, people who would teach, who have the certification. And that seemed very overwhelming and daunting. But my partnership with them led to a discussion with Mount San Jacinto College, where they already have a program. So looking at what are the competency models? Well, this is not something that we have to create. This is already out there. The industry has already done this. And so this pyramid shows you where the different tiers are, personal effectiveness, the academic component, and all of the little sub pieces, the workplace competencies, the industry competencies, sector and occupation specific. These things are already well established in the industry at the national level. So we don't have to start from scratch. Next slide. So the Mount San Jacinto already has these college programs and courses: water treatment plant, water distribution, wastewater treatment plant, test procedures for water and wastewater plants, wastewater collections, environmental laws and regulations, and utility management. These courses already exist. And the beauty is with using Mount San Jacinto is they're already online. They were online before COVID. So they already have that model, which means anybody can take these classes no matter where they're located. And that was something that I identified in talking to people, was the difficulty is the programs, let's say, are San Bernardino. It is very difficult for a large portion of our population to make that commute on a daily or regular basis. And that in and of itself could be a chilling effect on somebody wanting to pursue a more formal process of getting that education and experience before or during their career path. And so it really needed to be something that we could offer locally. Now, eventually, I would love to see College of the Desert develop this program. But in the meantime, we can immediately start offering these classes with this partnership. And that's what we've done. So the next phase of it is the cooperative work experience. And much like Bayworks, it's putting these individuals who are interested and out there and learning about this into boots on the ground, learning. So what does this cooperative work experience offer? Placement at participating water and wastewater agencies. So that would be here just in Coachella Valley, approximately 240 jobs in the Valley that are certificated, meaning they either require the state operator certification or there are certifications offered through CWEA, like electrical instrumentation, lab, those kinds of things. So this is going to give them that boots on the ground job experience, and in agencies where they have the potential to get hired. It's supervised employment, so that means they're working. This is a job. This is not an internship. This is a job, full-time job. Potential grants to help offset the cost of that work experience, demonstrating water and wastewater operations, knowledge, skills, and abilities, which means even if the place where they're getting that experience, that apprenticeship level experience, if they can't get hired on permanently because maybe they just don't have the positions, but they have been able to demonstrate those KSAs during the process. So when they go to apply to a job, they can demonstrate that they have it, they have work experience, they have an education behind it, and they're going to obtain the minimum hours to get that certification. And then there's always the potential for employment. So if we have a position available, of course, why wouldn't we hire someone who's been through the program that we've already seen them demonstrate their experience and knowledge? So this is just showing the skills list. This comes from the program that's been built. The water treatment and wastewater treatment operator skills list. Obviously, there's some similarities between the two, but they can go into one or the other, or they could say that they're interested in obtaining both. So what is the program status? Well, I'm happy to report they have 5 program participants enrolled already. We are currently working with Mount San Jacinto Community College. They are already applying for program grant funds, which would help offset the costs of the program. We have met as the program management committee. This is a requirement for an apprenticeship program. We are using the model that is already existing with the launch program, and we're sort of operating under that umbrella for right now. And we will be meeting to get the charter approved from the program management committee, which is anybody who wants to participate. And then we will meet quarterly to manage the program operations. And next slide. So to sum it up, we have partnerships or members who have expressed interest in being in this committee all the way out to the Temecula area. So it's not just Coachella Valley, which is why we decided to call it the desert region, because this could be branched out because these classes are offered online. Anyone located anywhere can participate, and we wanted to give that as an option. So at any time, if somebody says, we would like to partner with this, be part of this program, they can join the committee, be part of this, and then come in under the umbrella of an established program, rather than trying to start something from scratch. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Beverly. Again, very exciting information. And I noticed Paola Laverde put a question online already, and we'll get to those questions shortly. And I would encourage everybody that's participating in this webinar to go ahead and submit their questions, because we're going to start addressing those questions right after our next presenter, which is Chris Hannan, who is the Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council. Chris?
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Not just to all the panelists that sound like there's some very exciting initiatives happening all over the place, but thank you for everybody that's joining this webinar. It would be nice if we were all in person, but the one advantage of this is it allows a lot of us to join, and maybe even more people to join on the webinar. But here at the Building Trades Council, I represent the Los Angeles Orange County's Building Construction Trades Council. We have 48 affiliates, 44 local unions, 4 district councils, and they represent about 140,000 of the best trained men and women in construction. I started as an apprentice myself. I do realize that many of you are on the webinar, may not be located in Los Angeles or Orange counties, but we have very good, very strong building trades councils all throughout the state of California. If you're outside of the state of California, there's building trades councils just about everywhere around. I encourage you to reach out to your local building trades. I'm going to talk about some of the exciting things that we have in Los Angeles and Orange counties, but there's exciting things going on all throughout the state of California. I'm happy to work with any building trades leaders around the state, but they probably don't need any of my help, and they're doing very exciting things in their communities as well. One thing that's very exciting for California is our apprenticeship programs. The panelists that preceded me talked about very exciting things that were happening in their communities, and presenting these very good opportunities within the context of water. And in California, we certainly could use every bit of water we could get. In the state of California, there's over 66,000 joint labor management or union-sponsored apprentices in construction. So there's a lot of great opportunities on the operations side. There's also very good opportunities on the construction side, supporting the build out and maintenance of your water infrastructure in your communities and across the state of California. How do those 66,000 break down? Well, they're really, they live all throughout communities in California. Just here in Los Angeles and Orange counties, we have over 21,000 that live within our 2 counties. The apprenticeship programs, like the one I applied for, on average 4 to 5 years in length. We do have a few programs that you can get through a little bit shorter. I'm happy to answer any questions after about the apprenticeship programs, but really, I want to talk about some exciting things we're doing to get the word out about apprenticeship. Nationally, we have a curriculum. It's called our multi-craft core curriculum. And we use this curriculum nationally to introduce the trades to not only young people, but anybody that's interested in a career in construction. Locally, you get permission to use the curriculum, whether you're a community-based organization, local school district, or community college, you can get permission from your local building trades council. Here in Los Angeles and Orange counties, we have, I believe on slide 3, we have some of our active programs. Right now we have 14 active programs. We have a few additional programs that are currently not running cohorts. COVID has really affected our ability to run cohorts. And although we've been running cohorts all along, even through COVID, the class sizes are much smaller and the numbers are much smaller. But we have some new cohorts that are going to be beginning soon with a couple new programs. One of them with Community for Responsible Community Development. That's a program in South Los Angeles. We also have 5 Keys Charter Schools, which is going to be doing cohorts in youth camps, as well as in some of the county jails. The program works great for individuals of all ages. It works great for younger adults. It works great for adults that just want a change of scenery and they want to get into a new career. It's really an introductory program, and where you get some hands-on experience. You get to earn a couple certificates like the OSHA 10, First Aid and CPR, and then you visit some different apprenticeship training programs. On slide 5, so our next slide, over the last 4 years or so, we've offered the class to just over 3,000 students. Again, these students are taking the course at community colleges, local school districts, and community-based organizations. About 2,600 of the students actually complete the class. Next slide. During the years of 2018 and 2019, we were offering the class to just over 800 students a year. In 2020, we had hopes of offering it to over 1,000 students just in Los Angeles and Orange counties. And then COVID hit, and we had to pause some classes. We were able to restart them once we instituted some safety protocols, but by and large, the classes were much smaller and much more infrequent during an ideal year. So we still offer the class to 399. This year, we're still affected by COVID, although things are getting a little bit better. Hopefully that continues to trend in that direction. This year, we'll probably offer the course to over 400 students. Once we get through all the COVID restrictions, we'll be back up to about 1,000 students a year. Next slide, and one more slide. So what happened with those 2,600 students? Well, actually 1,003 of them actually got into our building trades, local unions, and apprenticeship programs. They got into 24 different apprenticeship training programs in 35 different local unions. So you can see the names of the local unions that are on the slide there. And these members of these unions, whether they're apprentices or journey level, many of them are working on your water projects all throughout California. And I can tell you, after 26 years in the local union and starting off as an apprentice, obviously I'm not working with the tools today, working for the Building Trades Council, but I can tell you it's exceeded every one of my goals. It's exceeded all of my expectations. I got to work on a very significant water project for the region. I got to work on the Diamond Valley Lake or the East Side Reservoir. And it's something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Just such a wonderful project. What do our participants look like in these programs and getting into our apprenticeships? They really look like all of our neighbors. The only one caveat to that is we struggle to encourage women to consider our trades, but I can tell you that this apprenticeship readiness program, it's a safe place to learn about the trades. The commitment is generally about 6 to 12 weeks, and we're introducing the trades to more and more. While we struggle with our, trying to get more women to consider our trades, we have a much higher representation in these classes. About 17% of all the students are female. About 17% of all the students that complete are also female, and as well as 17% of everybody that's completing the program are actually getting into our local union. So out of those 1,003 placements, about 17% of them are female. Next slide. This is just a little comparison what the cohorts look like, female versus male. Next slide. There we go. And as far as ethnicity and racial makeup, what are the students look like? What do the apprentices look like? Again, they look just like our neighbors, just look like our sisters and brothers. About 93% of everybody that goes through these programs and gets into our local union apprenticeships are individuals of color. The breakdown is listed. And again, this is a really good way to find out about the trades, to get into a very rewarding career. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. It's still a hard way to make a living, but you're rewarded with a good wage. And when you complete the apprenticeship, it's a middle-class wage. We have health insurance, not only for the individual, but for their whole family. We also have retirement. So after you finish your career and you get to work on a lot of different water projects, as well as other infrastructure and construction projects throughout the region, you can retire and stay in California and really enjoy life and enjoy this great state. That concludes my presentation. Oh, I do want to reference a few facts on this slide. In 2021, we started tracking some additional information about the students. Right now in 2021, 45% of all the students taking this class are formerly incarcerated. Many are documented as low income. Some are even receiving public assistance. And this is a good way to find out about a great career and put all that behind you. Next slide. So I want to just highlight a few of the recent graduates. David went through the program at the Flint Ridge Center. The Flint Ridge Center is a community-based organization that partners with our Building Trades Council. They do fantastic work. They offer the Building Trades Multi-Craft Core Curriculum, or MC3 program, to students, as well as a lot of other supportive services. When David completed the program, I'd like to highlight that the program that he completed was funded through a grant for individuals that are homeless or bordering on the verge of homelessness. He wasn't quite ready to go in the trades, but through our nonprofit, and this PowerPoint is actually the presentation to our nonprofit's board meeting yesterday, our staff was able to stay engaged with David. When David was ready, we were able to help him get into the Bricklayers and Allied Crafts Local 4. He went to work on a community workforce agreement, just like very similar to the one that Channing spoke about in his presentation. Charles, back one slide. So Charles is a fantastic story also. Charles went through our partnership with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. And at the time, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, our Building Trades Council, and Los Angeles Southwest College were partnering on this cohort. He actually spent 21 years behind bars. When he got out, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, as well as our partnership, helped him go through a very holistic program. And he's now a member of Laborers Local 300 and doing very, very well. He is very thankful. He stopped by our Building Trades Council a couple weeks back and let us know how well he was doing. Maybe back a couple slides.
Actually, Chris, if we can, we're running a little short on time. If we can get to the Q&A, I appreciate it. And we do have 8 open questions so far from our audience. We'll go to the first question from Omar. He says, what's the best way to break into the water industry if you have both a bachelor's and a master's degree, but no experience in the water treatment or operations? And we'll open it up to all of our panelists to see who wants to address that one. Beverly, Chris, Channing?
Well, I would say the best thing to do is what you're doing now. Learning about the industry, starting to network with individuals in the industry. I think you learned about 3 great programs where even if you're not a fit for the apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, internship, a lot of these individuals, whether it's Beverly or Chris and myself, or even Stephan, we're knowledgeable about the industry. You can always email us, talk to us. I know our executive team at West Valley is really good. Our general manager, Ricky Mambohall, our public affairs director, Nasim Farouki, they talk to people all the time about the industry and how to get in and the different jobs and roles you have. Oh, don't forget Will. Talk directly, call Victor.
Would like to piggyback on what Channing said for our apprenticeships throughout the state of California, because many are in all different counties. There's a good resource that is calapprenticeship.org. If you don't have it exactly right, if you just Google calapprenticeship.org, they have every apprenticeship training program that's associated with our union, not only our union construction trades, but all different occupations. And that's a good starting point. You don't have to go through one of our pre-apprenticeship programs. Our programs are always accepting applications all the time. You don't need previous experience. You just have to be willing to give it a chance, to work hard, to be reliable, to be teachable, and willing to work well with others. If you can accomplish those things, you would do very well in our industry.
Great. Another question. What is a common reason you hear about why individuals are not applying for jobs in our industry?
Well, I would say it's primarily they don't know about them. I mean, that's been my experience, is that when I go out, for example, and talk to people about the program, like the high schools or whatever, they don't even know that this is a thing. And I think that's really a disservice we as an industry are doing. We've done such a great job. It's kind of like that old mentality of, if nobody comes to our meetings and nobody says anything to us or anything, we're doing a good job, because they only talk about you when you're not doing it right. Well, that's a disservice to us in getting people to see us as a career pathway, because they don't even know we're here. I mean, my agency's been here for 97 years. And I have people asking, so how long have you guys been doing this? Well, I don't know, before there was a city, and our city predates the other cities. So, I mean, that tells you a lot, that we're doing such a great job. We're the best kept secret. Not easy when you're trying to get people to apply.
True. So here's another question, and each one of you addressed this in one form or another in your presentations. And this question is, why is it important to create job programs to help underrepresented individuals entering the water sector?
One of the other ones wants to take that one. I have a distinct opinion, but
well,
I can. Go ahead, Channing.
General Manager Marshall, let it fly. We're here. Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
Well, when I go to CASA, CWA, whatever, and I look around and I make note of the people that stand out, meaning I can start counting them on a few hands because there are so few. I wonder, because that's not indicative of our environment. That's not indicative of the communities that we serve. And so when I look around, and women are more than 50% of the population, and we are not 50% of the people at these things, or I have staff that tell me, oh, I went to a training and I was the only pick one. That does not mean that we're doing a good job of reaching the community. My community, as I said, 70 to 75% Latino. I do not see that when I recruit. I do not see that in my applicant pool. Why? If I'm pulling from a local population, how am I not reaching that group? Because there's been study after study after study that has shown that companies that have a diverse population of employees, and that goes gender, race, ethnicity, neurodiversity, everything, are time and time again more productive, more successful, and a better place to work. Yeah, spoke it.
Great answer. Great answer.
Good answer.
Here's another question.
I would like to just piggyback on that. Sure. And real briefly, if we're going to build some of the most complex water projects and other projects in the world, talented people to do that. And we need to reach into every community to get the most talented people. And people deserve an opportunity to build their own communities. So that's why it's important for our building trades unions, number one, to give people an opportunity to build their communities. And number two, these are very complex projects, as well as maintaining the operations of the infrastructure. We need the most talented people, and the most talented people are everywhere and in every community, and we need to do a good job reaching them.
I agree. And let me kind of piggyback on that just a little bit. Chris, you talked about how complex these projects are, and complex projects require complex solutions, which means a diversity of thought is required to come up with some of the best, most well-rounded solutions. So that's why it's important to have a diverse workforce when you're creating these solutions. All right. What role do elected officials have in job diversity, specifically in the water sector?
Well, I'll take this one. When I got elected back in November of 2019 and then sworn in, there were three major concerns, transparency, accountability, and then jobs. And at the time in our agency, there were other priorities. And because I was elected, or individuals who are elected help to shape policy, hire general managers, assistant general managers, set directives, like for instance, if you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, that's all done at the policy level. When you look at something like a school board or local cities, or where I work today in the county, because you have more attention and more people are in those seats, you have workforce and you have policies that are created that reflect the values of that community. In water, I think in our state, we have 7, 8 African Americans elected out of the thousands of water districts. There's like 7 or 8 of us, period. And then when we get to general managers, I'm glad to see Stephan today, but I think there's 4, like 3, 4 maybe at the top end. And the policymakers help to shape the direction that the agency will go and hold people accountable and reflect the values, and they work in partnership with the general managers and other stakeholders who are working on it day to day. So it's critical. If you haven't thought about running for water, think about it and run, and WELL is more than capable of assisting you.
Thanks, Channing. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions, and this is kind of a 2-parter from Brian Bocock. It's like many water agencies are not union. How does that affect the apprentice getting into one of these agencies? And the second part is it mandated that they go to a union employer?
Well, Chris can talk about from the official apprenticeship, but my agency is not unionized. And there is only one agency water, wastewater that is unionized in Coachella Valley. The rest have employee associations and like mine are completely unrepresented. Only one has an actual union. So it doesn't stop us at all. And I believe in a strong partnership with unions if there are unions coming from 20 years in the Bay Area. I think they can be a partner. I don't see that as being a barrier, and I don't see that it is a requirement. It really depends on the agency.
Someone doesn't have to be a union member, and if there's a non-union employer and they need to use an apprentice on a public works project, they should just request one from the local apprenticeship program, and we send apprentices all the time to non-signatory employers as well.
And as a former labor representative for close to a decade in public sector unions, who represented water districts and agencies, it is different depending on where you go. A lot of them are kind of small and, they have a mom and pop kind of feel to them, and so, it's a different order. But I was fortunate enough when I got there, we had been in negotiations with the operating engineers for a number of years. And one of the first things in order to settle our employees and get us where we were able to get our deal done with the operating engineers when I came on the board. And so it's critical, particularly as your agency grows, and to have transparency and accountability and a voice for the workers.
Thank you. I think we're running pretty short on time. I think we've got about 2 minutes. And I'd like to close to see if any of the panelists have a final word before we turn it back over the well. Channing, anything?
Well, I want to thank the esteemed panelists. I want to thank Chris Hannan as well as Beverli Marshall. I hadn't seen Chris in a few years. I want to thank Stephan Tucker for your job. I want to thank Paul and Stephanie and Victor and all the team at Well for hosting this important discussion today. I hope individuals are able to get something out of it. If you want to contact me to learn more about what we're doing at IE Works, you can always give me a call. My email is chawkins@wvwd.org, or you can call me 909-265-4418. Again, that's chawkins, CHAWKINS@wvwd.org. I look forward to hearing from you, and good luck with your career.
Thank you, Channing. Beverli.
Yeah, I just want to really thank everyone, especially Well, for arranging this, having this conversation, inviting me to talk about the program that I'm working with. And I just think it's an important discussion. I think that everybody is wanting to make this career path as open and available to anyone who has an interest. Certainly, I try to express my passion for this industry. And I think the more of us that can do that and be out there and representing, the better. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed meeting everybody. And I look forward to having this discussion in an even bigger forum, because I think bigger is better, because we do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverli. And finally, Chris Hannan.
I also want to echo my thanks for Well. I want to echo my thanks for all the participants taking time out of your day to find out about getting the word out about all the careers in water. Beverli, Channing, both of you, very informative presentations. Whether you're in Los Angeles, Orange County, or anywhere in the state of California, I encourage you to reach out to your local building trades. Look up apprenticeship.org, a lot of great resources. Look forward to working with Well and all of you in the future. If you want to reach out to the building trades, the phone number here is 213-483-4222. Take care, everyone. Good seeing you again, Channing.
Okay. Thanks to all of our panelists, and thanks to the participants, and thanks to Well for putting on this vitally important webinar on this vitally important topic. And thanks for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Stephan, and I want to thank you for facilitating our webinar today and our panelists for sharing their insights. And again, my name is Paul Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director for WELL. I want to appreciate all of our attendees for spending a small amount of your time today, and I hope today's webinar was helpful to you. Just as a reference, this webinar recording and all the information will be emailed to everyone in the next day or so. So please be watchful for that email. WELL's objectives for hosting these webinars is to provide you with new information, showcase programs that are making a positive impact, and act as a catalyst for you to bring back these ideas, practices, and resources back to your community and agencies. I want to recognize our sponsor once again, West Valley Water District, for supporting this event. As a nonprofit organization, these sponsors allow us to provide this high-level program to you at no cost. And again, please take a moment to follow us on social media at Latinos for Water. These platforms allow another opportunity for us to engage with you on a more consistent basis. I'm excited to announce our next webinar in early December. California Drought, exploring the state's upcoming response to drought conditions and financial impacts on local communities. After 2 exceptional dry winters, California is once again experiencing drought conditions. Furthermore, global climate change intensifies drought as increasing winter and summer temperatures dry out soil, exacerbating drought impacts in our state. These circumstances have impact local residents with local water restrictions, water rate increases, and even access to affordable produce. These uncertainties, coupled with COVID-19 financial crisis, place additional hardships on our members of your community and those of the vulnerable segments. To help community leaders prepare, WELL will host a panel discussion showcasing recommendations about the steps that will be implemented now to help navigate the current drought and also prepare for us for the next steps. Learning about these action items now can help mitigate the financial hardships your community may be experiencing during any prolonged periods of drought. Please make sure to register for the event in the coming days. On behalf of WELL, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Have a productive week, and we'll see you at our next webinar in December. Thank you and goodbye.